And again, it doesn't really look at the importance of having diversity, having more than one enterprise. You may have one enterprise that has, for example, comparing the garlic and the spinach. Garlic had a higher gross profit, but you don't want to put all your, there's reasons for not putting all your money into just growing solely garlic. Whether or not you saturate the market, or you may have a production, have a production problem, and it's important to, do the rotation. Some of those other aspects you got to take into account, and also stability of income. If the price goes down the garlic, and you have spinach, and you're raising goats or doing the other things, you have a diversity of income coming from different sources. So the gross profit analysis doesn't take that into account. And so really, in order to say for sure that you're profitable, you really have to do a complete financial plan. The gross profit does not tell you whether or not you're profitable. It just tells you whether or not that enterprise, what the gross profit of that particular enterprise is. You need to go to a complete financial plan in order to determine that your business as a whole is profitable, that you're making enough money to cover all of those overhead expenses. And just a moment there, see if there's any questions.
Hi, this is Melissa. Craig, we do have some good questions tonight on this topic. Actually, 3 of them. I hope we get time to get to all of them. The first one is from Pat, and this goes to the subject of fixed or variable costs. She asks, what if you're leasing that trailer rather than own it? What would it be considered then?
If you were leasing that trailer and it's tied specifically to a individual, you're leasing this for the specific purpose of a specific enterprise, then it would be directly related to that cost. Would be directly related to that enterprise, and it would be included as part of the gross profit analysis.
I think her question was, would it be fixed or variable cost?
Well, it would really be a variable cost, because it would be a variable cost, and that was why it would be included in the gross profit analysis.
Okay. Okay, next question. I think this refers back to slide 27, where you talked about the gross profit analysis per unit of garlic versus spinach. And Alicia asks, so according to this, I can make $38 an hour growing garlic or $18 an hour picking spinach. She's not clear that she's understanding what you were talking about.
Well, it is telling you that on your, based on what Diane and Mary provided me, that they spent 13.5 hours working on the garlic, and that would be their return to cover overhead expenses. It's not saying that is the return for that particular enterprise, and that gross profit doesn't, it's not taking in land payments, it's not taking into account other, if you got a tractor payment, you got other costs that are associated with that, with your business as a whole. It doesn't take those, gross profit doesn't take those into account. But as that enterprise itself, when you look solely at that enterprise is, yes, it is returning you $37.50 an hour for that enterprise, but that doesn't, when you look at the business as a whole, you're not making $37.50 an hour as a business as a whole, because you have other expenses that you have to cover, such as land, taxes, all these other expenses that are not included in the gross profit analysis.
Okay. All right. Third question, I believe, goes to slide 28, and this one's from Suzanne. She says, I don't understand. A meat goat sells for $90 and a goat is rented for vegetation control for $600?
Well, they're comparing the two. Different units there, but the $600 per day for a herd of 250 goats is what the $600 is for a herd of 250 goats, essentially.
Oh, okay. It looked like it was for one goat.
Right.
Okay.
I couldn't,
Right.
It's for a herd of 250 goats. Is that I didn't explain that, but that's that $600 a day would be for a herd of 250 goats.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, great. Thank you.
Well, with that, I guess it goes back to Diane. And I just want to make sure that I want everybody to take the time, if you haven't, because I know that was one of the assignments for last week, and we didn't really talk about the gross profit analysis last week, but to take the time to do a gross profit analysis either on an existing enterprise or a new enterprise that you're thinking about. And if you have questions about that, do bring those up into the forum. So.
Thank you, Craig. That was eye-opening. Good question, Alicia. I wish I was making that much money an hour. And the other thing with thinking about the gross profit or the gross margin, either way, on the garlic is also in considering. I said we were considering putting in more, but I also have to acknowledge if I put in more garlic, the garlic is ready to be harvested at the same time that the beans are on. So you really need to, as if you're doing row crops and you're looking at expanding on some different row crops, you really need to be paying close attention back to that time investment of, when it comes time to be harvesting beans every 3 days, and then we throw in having to harvest 1,100-foot rows of garlic, it's a chore, and that we're not including the aspects of. That was just a sampling. You always have to consider a percentage that the gophers are going to get. That's inevitable. Those little guys are not our favorite pests in the garden because they always eat a fair amount of garlic, so it happens. Uh-oh. Go back. I want to talk about the salad with the snow peas for a minute here before we get going. So staying on that same thought with, I'm addressing row crops because a large portion of you are doing row crops. This is a salad that was at a field day we had last year, and it's a nice picture of golden snow peas and blue potted peas. Last year we did seed trials of, and that's one thing that we've been doing a fair amount of, is trying out new varieties. So rather than put in a mass of these, we wanted to see how they would do. So we did golden snow peas, and these are called blue potted blossstockers. Sounds like something from Willy Wonka. We planted about 15 feet of each of these varieties of peas and tracked how well they grew. We kept close track of the harvest records. We evaluated how the customers liked them before we decided to add more. And I think next year I don't know that I will grow any more than, I probably will still grow 15 feet of each because that's about how well they sold, but they're unique and pretty and people seem to like them. But because I kept good records, that made the difference. Really, record keeping is crucial in any small farm operation, and typically the shortcoming of many small acreage farmers. I don't know if it sticks to small acreage. I think all of us have some challenges there.